Just kept coming. The cars kept getting better. The performance was better. They learned very quickly. The learning curve was very short for them.
Nissan sold only 52 Datsuns in 1958. So they sent one of their most outspoken managers to Los Angeles with instructions to create a dealer network from scratch. By the age of 50, Yutaka Katayama had stepped on a few too many toes. He was known more as a rebel than a company man, openly criticizing what he thought were bad management decisions.
He was really sent to America, I think, largely to fail. They didn't know what else to do with him. And I thought, we're not going to be that successful in America, so send Katayama. If we fail, it's his failure.
Well, when I arrived at Los Angeles, I came to a very free country and made me feel very good.
One of the first people Katayama hired was John Parker, who would create Datsun's advertising for the next 18 years.
His English was bad. My Japanese was even worse. We sat and smoked cigarettes, drank tea, talked philosophy and about life and how we had a great opportunity.
If there was a great opportunity, Katayama was the only one who saw it. Pearl Harbor had left many Americans feeling anti-Japanese, and the Datsun product was clunky. And Katayama knew almost no one in the U.S.
Katayama got his start, literally, driving a Datsun car to a guy that's got a corner garage or maybe a used car lot and says in his very broken English, "Wouldn't you like to sell Datsun cars and trucks?" And I think about 99% of the time the guy would say, "Get out of here."
Well, I'll tell you, it was so tough. It was hard to get new dealers. It really was.
In terms of the kinds of people that these were, they were an amazing assortment. I used to wonder whether some of them had ever had a real suit, a pair of pants and a coat that matched.
The dealers loved Mr. Katayama. He was almost like a Billy Graham to them.
He'd get up there and in his broken English he'd say, "You make money, we make money. You build bigger facility, we'll build a bigger facility. You sell more cars, we'll get more cars." And A would talk to B, and B would talk to C, and C would talk to his brother-in-law and say, "I think we ought to start a business." And that's the way the thing started to grow.
So we started on a wing and a prayer, and fortunately we had some good product coming along.
The sound move is to Datsun. Four-door, wagon, pickup, 2 Datsun sports cars, and a 4-wheel drive patrol.
By the late 60s, Datsuns featured overhead cam engines, disc brakes, and color-coordinated interiors.
Sound move to solid comfort. Rattle-free Datsun unit bodies. 4- and 5-speed all-synchro-mesh transmissions.
Things were looking up. Little did they know that an event halfway around the world was about to make them an overnight success. In 1973, the unthinkable happened. Our gas pumps suddenly ran dry. The oil-producing nations of the Middle East had decided to play hardball. They wanted more money for their oil, and they weren't going to sell a drop of it until they got the price they wanted.
That's how desperate people were. I remember the long lines that we sat in, people following fuel delivery trucks down the road to see which gas station they were going to stop at.
I've been in those lines for 2.5, 3 hours and got all the way up there, and 5 cars ahead of me, they've run out of gas after being in the line for 3 hours. Talk about disheartening.
Suddenly, Americans were faced with the horrifying prospect of having our freedom taken away from us, because the car had always symbolized freedom to go when you want, as far as you want, and basically fairly cheaply. The oil crisis meant that might not be the case anymore, and that was horrifying.
The oil crisis began showing up everywhere, even in the movies. In 1973, a group of college students got together and made a movie called Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Here's how the movie goes. There are 5 teenagers in a van, and they stop at a Gulf station because they're running low on gas.
Would you fill her up, please? I got no gas. You're out of gas? My tank's empty.
Before the movie is over, 4 of the 5 have been murdered by various members of a family of cannibals. So either they sell you gasoline,
We ought to go to that gas station and get help.
or they don't sell you gasoline, in which case they kill you and turn you into barbecue and sell the barbecue to other folks who stop for gas.
I got some good barbecue here. Why don't you fellas stick around here a while?
But I think that movie gets at the heart of a very great fear for a lot of Americans, that if we ever run out of gas, if we can't drive or can't drive as much as we'd like to, we're going to die.
This is one of our most valuable resources, a gallon of gasoline. Put it in the average car and you'll get about 13 and a half miles. Put it in a Datsun 1200 and you'll get around 30 miles.
Datsun
Suddenly, there was a mad stampede for small, fuel-efficient cars, and Detroit was caught off guard.
The Japanese had all these little cars, and so when the demand came so instantly, they were poised to have a field day. They had a banquet. They feasted on us. I mean, because they were there and people wanted them.
The imported car was here to stay, and Detroit was in for a bumpy ride. At Datsun, the dealers could hardly believe their good fortune.
The dealers changed as a group. You could just see the change from meeting to meeting. They got slicked up, and the wives got slicked up, and you saw more fur coats, and the evidences of improving sales became very obvious.
I had lots of millionaires in the United States. I made lots of millionaires.
These people made their own success and knew that Datsun and to a certain extent Mr. Katayama were a very, very integral part of that success.
People were paying huge premiums to own a Japanese car. You couldn't give away a Cadillac.
On a hot summer night in 1971, Eddie Campos did the unthinkable. He drove his dream car to a Ford assembly plant in Pico Rivera, California, soaked it with gasoline, and set it on fire.
It was a Lincoln Continental. It was a brown car, but as pretty as a car that will ever be made. So I saved my money. When I walked into the showroom, the guy told me, maybe that's not the car you want. He says, maybe it's too much for you to pay. I said, no, this is the car I want.
First brand new car we'd ever bought. It was a lot of money for us with 3 kids.
I let my wife drive it home, and on the way home, the whole ignition switch fell out of the car.
But Eddie was so mad about it.
I didn't even drive the car for an hour before it fell apart.
From then on, it was just the car from hell.
You turn the air conditioner on, the heater goes on.
You went to roll up the windows, it wouldn't go up.
Then you go back to the dealer. Well, we'll take care of it. It was just something minor, you know.
There was one time when we had gotten the car, it was brand new, and we decided to go to this restaurant.
We got out of the restaurant, you know, when you got a new car, luxury car, you park in front, you know, you're the big shot. You're the big time people, you know, you got what your neighbor don't have.
And for no apparent reason, it died on us.
Car won't start. You are out there with your hood open on your car, you know, cold at night. No way.
It was a very embarrassing thing because people would say, well, where's your car? Well, it's in the shop. Again?
The only thing that car didn't have that it should have been equipped with was a tow bar.
There was one time when it wouldn't start, and I left it on the highway and walked home.
She called me up and says, come over and get this piece of get rid of it.
He came and picked me up, and I guess somehow he got the car running, and he said he'd be home later, but he didn't come home.
I took it to the Ford Motor plant, put it right in their yard. I poured some gas on it. I threw a match on it, sit on under a tree and watch that miserable piece of junk burn.